Back on the cast.
Back on the cast. Welcome back to Night of the Comments, everybody. Episode 5. Feels good to get back on the mic. It feels like it's been a while. It feels like we
Yeah.
haven't
Yeah.
gotten
Halloween.
on. Yeah,
Halloween.
it's been a minute. And I apologize if you hear barking. It's my dog. He is man, he's having a tough couple weeks ever since we got back from North Carolina. He's so skittish. Every little sound he hears, he barks like crazy. So if you hear barking throughout this episode, that's what it is. But I'm really excited to get back on the cast to talk some really spooky stuff that we've kind of been like teasing the last couple episodes. But I'm more excited to have our first guest on the show, which is Marie from Marie Reviews Everything. Let's clap. She deserves a clap.
I had to think about what direction I needed to put my hands. So it's because it's like mirrored, you know.
Yeah, I am. That's right. That's right.
Let's shake hands. We could shake hands.
Oh no, wait.
Other way.
It is wrong, and I'm bending wrong.
There we go. Everyone, give me
give you a 5.
Yeah.
My eyes are already watering, Kevin. We're already watering.
Oh man, it's so good to have you on. I can't remember who added each other first on Instagram, but I remember the moment we started talking. You were asking for music recommendations, and I sent you I think Rainbow Kitten Surprise and maybe Camp.
Yes.
And so we kind of hit it off there. We're talking about music, and we've just been good friends ever since. And you've always supported my stuff, and it's just I wouldn't want to have anybody else as our first guest on the podcast. So thank you so much for taking the time to hop on here and just shoot the shit with us. It truly means a lot. And I'd like for you to kind of just, I guess, introduce yourself. Who are you, Marie? What are you about? Where can people find you? And things like that.
Just don't give them your home address.
Oh darn!
Yeah,
I wanted the fan mail, like in the snail mail.
Snail mail.
Fan snail mail. I'm honored that you guys asked me. Seriously, like Kevin's talking, I'm starting to cry already. FYI, this is an episode where my eyes are going to water a lot.
Mine too.
See,
that's one thing we have in common when it comes to.
I thought I was the only person in the world whose eyes water when you talk about spooky stuff. And then Kevin used to watch my old podcast that I was on where it was all spooky stuff. And then I remember him messaging me. He's like, your eyes water too. I'm like, yours water too. And then we bonded more of that. Anyway, my name is Marie. And I have one Instagram page that's Marie Reviews Everything. And then I also am a part of the podcast Not a Strong Start on Instagram. It's at Not a Strong Start. And with that, I'm starting my own podcast / YouTube channel through them called at Marie Plays It All, which is in development, should be coming out next month. I have the Instagram page named, but there's nothing really on it yet that has to do with that, but it is coming and I'm very excited.
We're changing it up a little bit on this episode. I know we've had a track record of just talking about horror films in that world. Yeah. But we decided that since we'd initially said episode 1 that we were gonna not do that, it was time for a change. So we're gonna discuss our favorite paranormal phenomenon or incident, event. I wanted to make it pretty vague. I didn't want it to be so specific that we just rambled about some nuanced thing. So no one knows what each other's are. So I think that'll be fun. Well, maybe not. I don't know what Kevin's or Marie's are. And they don't know what mine is. Or should I say what mine are?
Ooh.
Yeah. So this is going to be a good time. But real quick before we do that, anything you've been listening to, anything you've watched recently that you hadn't for a while?
Well, basically I treat music the same way I treat movies, and I recycle the same things that I love over and over and over again. So movie-wise, I watched Host again last night because I love it so much. Also, I just finished recently the Cabinet of Curiosities series on Netflix.
That's the Guillermo del Toro one.
Yeah. So I finished that too. That's pretty much all I've been watching. No new movies yet. I'm always debating whether or not I should watch Smile or Pearl. I want to watch both of them. I haven't seen X because I know I'll hate it, but I've seen people who love Pearl who hated X. So I'm like, what do I do? Haven't you guys seen those movies? Smile or Pearl?
Oh. I saw X.
Oh,
I won't see Pearl because I saw X.
That's what I've been
Yeah.
hearing, but I've heard that people who hated X love Pearl actually.
Huh.
Like I've seen that like a few times.
I don't know that I want to spend the time to discover whether or not that's going to be the case.
Yeah, see, that's a thing.
Yeah, I saw X. I'm not interested in Pearl or Smile really.
Okay.
I've read the reviews, seen the reviews. It just doesn't seem like my type of thing. But who knows? Maybe I'll come around to it. But no, not yet.
I think you just don't like Ty West because I was like, watch House of the
Yeah.
Devil. And he's like, yeah, it wasn't my
That's a
thing.
good-
I'm like, darn.
That's a good point. Yeah, Ty West. There's been a lot of praise for him recently. I do think he's a good filmmaker, but sometimes you just don't click with certain filmmakers. I think that's all it is. Kind of is for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Understandable.
As far as music goes, I've been on like an old school hardcore kick. So I've been listening to like old Acacia Strain, Zayo. I don't know if either one of you have heard of Zayo, but Zayo was like old school hardcore.
Zayo.
And Zayo, yeah. They've got some really cool album art. You'd love it actually, Kevin. And then as far as and the guy that I sent you, Cody Acuff, which is totally a departure. It's like folk country kind of. I don't know how to describe it. I guess it's like kind of.
I compared him to almost kind of like a lesser Tyler Childers. I don't know if you know who that is.
Yeah.
Tyler Childers has a very strong, twangy country voice and has incredible range. Not my type of folk or country, but he's kind of in that same realm as Tyler Childers as far as like feel goes.
Damn, she broke out the
she did. The room shook when she pulled that thing over.
It's like a workout.
Hey, can you when you edit this, will you make like everything shake?
Yeah.
Like, that'd be cool. When she sets it down, it's like Godzilla walking.
There's a T-Rex in here somewhere.
But as far as films go, honestly, I just been watching a lot of the same shit that I always watch. I'm just in honor of Marie, her favorite paranormal show. Don't Sue Me, Discovery Channel. I've got Destination Fear on in the background.
So
been
good.
rewatching it. New episode.
Watch that.
Oh, dude, you'd like it. New episode comes out on Black Friday. So I'm ready for it. I'll be traveling, but I'm gonna try to watch it when I get to my destination. So
hell yeah. As far as me, I really kind of went back into. I was on the podcast with Mike, the Take One podcast. I think that drops tomorrow. We did our top 10 80s movies, and so I've been in a big 80s kick. And so I actually went back. Well, I didn't go back. I watched 2 80s horror movies that I've never seen. And one was Reanimator, which I fucking loved. Reanimator is
finally
awesome. That movie is like I didn't even hear about it for the longest time, and then Burke mentioned
until
it.
I harassed you about it for 8 months.
Burke mentioned it, said I think you'll really dig it. Well, I think that was more of the Town That Dreaded Sundown than
that's
Reanimator.
True. Yeah,
but watched Reanimator, and I love that movie. Can't wait to own that movie. And then I watched Videodrome with James Woods. I know Burke's seen it. I don't know if
it's so weird.
it.
I like James Woods, but
I haven't seen either of them, Reanimator or that one.
Reanimator, I recommend Reanimator. I don't. Well, it's Videodrome's really well made. It's just too metaphorical and weird and boring for me. It's just a one watcher. But those are the 2 that I've seen recently.
Videodrome is like it's like awkward. It's a very awkward movie. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's cool. Like if you have time and it's like free somewhere, check it out maybe. But I know a few people like you, Kevin, that like actually didn't. I know you finished it, but I know several people that didn't make it all the way through the film. They turned it off. So.
I get it. Well, the movie's only like 89 minutes. It's not long, but it feels like it's wrapping up multiple times, and it just drags and drags. You're like, I'm ready for this to be done. It's one of those films.
Yeah, agreed. All right, well, let's just get into the nitty.
I just saw in the background the TV say the following events happened between this time, and my eyes started watering already. Yeah. I'm like, oh, stuff's going down.
Hey, you know what? We should try to get like Dakota or somebody on the podcast.
Chelsea,
cool.
Dakota with her accent. Dakota. Hey, Dakota.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You do it. If those of you that don't know, Marie's from the Great White North, so
And I'm
she,
close to Minnesota too. It's like Fargo's like right beneath me. So, and
I've been to
Minnesota, so I got that.
Minnesota.
I've been to
You've been to where?
Minneapolis before.
Yeah, I have too.
Yeah,
It's actually a cool
I
city.
usually go every
It's
year.
pretty. It's really pretty.
Yeah. Let's get into it, folks. I guess since we have an honored guest here, that Marie should be the one that sets it off.
Okay, this is like favorite paranormal event.
Oh God, I love it. That was nice.
That was good. Can you do the voiceover for our intro? Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be
Yes.
cool.
Night of the Comments presents.
Okay.
Whoa, that's it.
That
That's
was
the
really
clip.
low. I went
Clip
like,
it.
"Ooh."
Clip it right there. That's it.
Okay, so my favorite, well, one of my favorites, it's something I saw in one of the best UFO / alien documentaries I've ever seen, called The Phenomenon. If anyone hasn't seen that, I highly recommend it. I think it might be on Prime. Oof, I don't know where it is now. Might be on Prime. Could be
I'll
on
look it
Tubi.
up.
Who knows? Yeah, The Phenomenon. Basically, I watched that movie, and by the end of the movie, I was like, well, aliens exist. That's it. And the reason why, well, all the stories in it are good, but there's one story that's at the very end of the documentary, and it's about this elementary school in Africa, in Zimbabwe, and it's called the Ariel School. It's like it's spelled like Ariel, Ariel. Is it on Prime? Did you
It's
see
on
it?
Tubi, but I have
it's on
actually
Tubi.
I have actually seen the last like 15 or 20 minutes of it.
So have you seen the story? The story with the kids in Zimbabwe in the school?
Yes, but I don't remember it like specifically, but I have seen a portion of this film. It's like reenacted, right? It's like based on is it like based on thing?
I don't think it's reenacted. This part wasn't, because they had actual footage from the time it happened, because it happened in 1994. And they had actual footage of the children who witnessed the UFO, and then they also interviewed them as adults as well.
Okay, maybe that's why I thought it was like what is that word where they do like a dramatization?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe okay, yeah.
I don't know if they do that in this one. Well, not for this segment, but there was like 60 kids who saw this UFO. They're out for like, I don't know if it was like a recess or whatever they were for, but they saw this silver object by the field in their school, and it lands. And then they like, some kids like ran away, some kids like ran to it, and then
which would you be?
Oh, it's happening. It's happening.
Which would you be? Would you run away?
I don't know. I think I'd maybe go to it.
I think I would probably run. I would probably go to it. I don't know.
Right?
What about you, Kevin? What do you think?
I don't think I'd run. I think I'd be too in shock to run, and not being able to comprehend what it is that I'm seeing. I think you'd have to look at it. You'd have to see it.
So when they get there, sorry, I just heard this. My neighbor like started some like snowblower outside, and I was like, because I'm home alone. I'm like, what?
This feels like, so I don't mean to interject, but this feels like, Burke, if you've seen the movie Host, I know Marie loves that movie, but I feel
Watched
like
it last
because
night.
we're talking about all this paranormal stuff, I feel like something's about to happen on one of our screens. But
it will be Burke's probably. If anybody, if anyone's, it'll be yours.
It might be, dude.
We're gonna entice it. So out of the craft comes like an alien, all dressed in like a black suit, and these kids all see it, and they claim that the alien was telepathically communicating with them some message. I think there was more than one alien. There was like 2 or 3. Some message about the environment and like protecting the earth or something. Which in 1994, what were we talking about in 1994? Like the ozone layer? Like, I don't know. Like, it wasn't a huge, like, it wasn't what it is today, like the whole climate thing. So I'm like, that's kind of an odd message for little kids to be like, oh, like they don't care about protecting the earth.
Yeah.
But that's what they said.
It is weird.
And they went back to school. They told their teachers. The teacher said, nah, whatever. They went home, told their parents. The parents came back to school and were like, no, like something happened. And then they had all these, like people come in and interview them from like the media and everything. And they drew pictures and you can find their pictures online and stuff. You just Google like the aerial school
Oh my
kids
God.
drawings, and you see them, and like a lot of them are really similar. And the alien looks like a typical gray alien. Oh God, I hate those things.
Yeah, aliens are scary. Aliens are way scarier to me than like a spirit, than like a human spirit. Like interdimensional things and aliens to me are very scary.
Agreed. Ever since I saw some episodes of the X-Files and then that movie, The Fourth Kind, like that fucked me up with aliens big time. That's fucking scary.
The Fourth Kind is like essentially one big dramatization of like actual events that were recorded. And I think they do show like some.
No, it's all fake.
It's all fake? Okay.
Yes, I thought it was. It's all fake, but so many people, they tricked so many people that thinking that was real. I don't know. Mila Jovovich, she's so convincing. She's so convincing.
I thought it was like, I thought there were real things and they just like made a script out of it. Or made a screenplay.
I think there is a real thing about like owls and like aliens or something like that. Like I think that's like an actual thing. And they just took that and like made this story. But I don't think what happened to like the woman who was abducted or whatever really happened. But gotcha. Aliens suck, man. Like I watched Close Encounters of the Third Kind when I was a kid, and it traumatized me for like 15 years. I swear to God, I couldn't watch the X-Files.
Those are like friendly, happy aliens though that sing songs.
They scared the crap out of me, man. Okay. Like they took the child away.
I know that there's like a really weird thing. There's like several shows about it, but like very weird things with how many people go missing in like Alaska and the Yukon and like gone like way more people. That. Yeah, like missing way more people
or whatever.
Than I think that's I think I've seen that. But essentially like there are significantly a higher percentage of people that go missing in like a super low populated area than there are in like giant cities, which makes no sense at all. So
and disappear like without a trace, like just gone, like, zapped from reality. Gone. It's like what?
I would love to go visit Alaska, but then I watch like this plethora of shows on like History Channel that are or like on National Geographic that talks about that shit. And I'm like, I don't want to get disappeared into like some other universe.
Why don't you want to go to Alaska? Aliens.
Yeah.
Just
interdimensional demons.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, what's really weird is now if I swear to God, if Kevin's has some weird connection with mine, because yours does, Marie, then I'm going to really be concerned about who's actually pulling the strings here, you know? So now I want to hear Kevin's.
Oh, Kevin, what is it?
Oh man. Well, Maria, did you conclude your alien?
Oh, that's pretty much it. And if you watch the documentary, the adults come back. Adults, we say.
I like adults
in Canada. That's a Canadian thing, eh? So the adults come back and they don't change their story at all. Their story's still the same. They swear by it. Apparently 2 days before this sighting at the school, there was multiple UFO sightings in the area as well. So I recommend checking out the phenomenon just for that story, but every single story in it is amazing. But that one, especially, I was like, nope, they exist. Done.
Oh, fucking A. Yeah, I'm gonna watch that. So that's on Tubi?
It's on Tubi, yeah.
All right. I'm gonna go watch
it. Tubi slaps. But there's all kinds of good shit on Tubi.
There is. So my story is, I know Burke knows about this. I'm not sure if Marie does. Marie, I know on your older podcast, you guys covered a lot of spooky, scary shit. This is a real thing that occurs in my home state. It's about an hour west of me. It's a phenomenon that happens regularly. It is the Brown Mountain Lights of North Carolina. I feel like I love Burke's reaction. Is that Burke? Is this related to yours? Or are you just going to kind of?
It is, and this is starting to actually freak me out. I'm not even kidding.
So I grew up on this story. I've heard about these ever since I was a kid. I've never seen them. I've never gone out to seek them out, but I've hiked around these mountains a lot. And so these lights can be seen either flickering, they can be seen being very big and bright, or very small, like candle lights. They can be moving all across the valley. They can be seen floating above the mountain, flying across the mountain. There's actual, if you go on YouTube, there's a lot of documentaries about them. And I got chills talking about them right now.
I have that right now too, goosebumps.
But I got some facts I like to read because it's really interesting shit. So, the Charlotte Observer first reported these sightings back in 1913 because they were seen by members of the Morganton Fishing Club. All these lights, the lights would appear regularly over Brown Mountain and had been seen for over 2 years. And it was happening so frequently that Congressman E.Y. Webb requested the U.S. Geological Survey to investigate, to which they concluded it was merely train headlights. The only thing is, after the flood of 1916 washed away the train tracks, there were no trains obviously operating and function, and the lights continued to happen.
Ghost train?
So then maybe.
Well,
so then,
for those of you that don't know, and you might mention this too, Kevin, but Brown Mountain is extremely rural. I mean, it's like rural North Carolina, very like hill country. It's not populated really.
Yeah, it's between basically me, which is in Charlotte, the Piedmont area, and the Appalachians, the western spot of North
Asheville.
Carolina. Right. So this is in Morganton. It's in the Linville Gorge, basically. It's very, very old land. So more extensive investigations happened. Research has been done about it. Documentaries have been done about it, and still nobody knows to this day what they are. According to Cherokee legend, around 1200 AD, a great battle was fought between the Cherokee and Catawba Indians at Brown Mountain, and the mysterious lights are from the Indian maidens still searching for their men who died in battle. So that's one theory as to what these lights are. A lot of scientists think that it's a certain type of ball lightning because there's a lot of granite in that area. But what conducts that? Like, ball lightning is so rare and this happens so frequently. Is that what it truly is? And then there's stories of a slave that escaped, and it's the light of the lanterns from the slave master's spirits, or it's extraterrestrials. Like, no one can truly hone in on what these lights are, but they happen so frequently and they're so unexplained. Like, if you go on YouTube, you type in Brown Mountain lights, there is like legit freaky stuff of these lights like manifesting and like spiraling in the air. They're red, blue, yellow.
There's like thousands of videos.
It's scary. But I remember hearing this as a kid. I've been so intrigued about what these lights are, and no one knows what they are, but it's just about an hour away from me, and it's happened for centuries, basically.
Yeah, I'm still freaked out because of the weird. So Kevin and I have talked about, I don't want to like delve too far in this. Could be like a whole episode, but like the idea that synchronicities are like something much more than what people see them as at face value, and that synchronicities might in fact be like something paranormal. And the fact that you both chose what you chose is very strange, because mine is probably the most well-known and vast unexplained phenomenon that can be tied to Urals, at least in the United States. So mine is the Mothman.
Love the Mothman.
And so it's kind of twofold. It's the Mothman and something else, and I'll actually talk about the first one or the other one first, because it's local to me, or semi-local to me. But that is what is referred to as the Kelly Hopkinsville. So essentially, I forget exactly how they phrase it. It's the Kentucky Goblins, but they refer to it as the Kelly Hopkinsville Encounter. So, have either one of you heard of the Kentucky Goblins before?
No.
So essentially, in 1955, I think sometime in August of 1955, a family at a farmhouse, a family and guests at a farmhouse, alleged this encounter with these goblin-like creatures, to where they actually fired multiple shots at them through windows and doors of their farmhouse. And we're talking like, I think 5 adults and 7 children alleged all this happened. Their stories were consistent between all of them, which is unheard of in testimony from witnesses of anything. And 2 of the people were actually traveling, had traveled there and were guests. But they alleged this like multiple hour-long encounter with these goblin-like creatures. And the only explanation that really anyone had was that they were actually great horned owls. And the folks that encountered this basically shot that down and said there was no way. Now, you're talking about people from the country that would have known, most of the animals that they'd see regularly, which they'd probably see great horned owls. So oddly enough, that's actually like a very common theme with cryptids, especially like Mothman, goblins, like cave dwelling cryptids, is that scientists will usually say, or like biologists will usually say, oh, that's just birds. You saw a bird.
Yeah. Especially
right?
owls,
Like,
it seems to be.
How many birds have you seen that you thought was a fucking goblin? None.
I mean, I hate birds, so it would be equally as scary to me.
But it's just odd that is always like the explanation that's given by quote unquote professionals, right? So again, that's 1955. So flash forward to 1966. So November 2nd, 1966, this guy Woodrow Derenberger claims that he encounters a craft while driving home to a town in rural West Virginia. He says that he encounters a being that comes out of the craft that's dressed in a suit that looks very, tidy, well kept, and he's smiling, but he seemed very peaceful and made sure that he wasn't afraid of him, basically. Set his mind at ease, said that he wasn't going to harm him, and they just talked. So he tells his wife, he tells the police, and then the press get involved as well. So this was several weeks before sightings of the Mothman started in a town about an hour away called Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Point Pleasant, and all of this became famous and folklore because a bridge collapsed in Point Pleasant about a year later in 1967, in December of 1967, where 46 people were killed, which is crazy, by the way. Think about 46 people dying at something like that. That's crazy. I think it's called the Silver Bridge, but essentially the connection is that what a lot of theorists and paranormal researchers think is that who Mr. Derenberger encountered is this entity that refers to itself as Injured Cold.
And that name always gives me goosebumps.
Right. So, an Injured Cold, like in of himself or itself, is not like a nefarious thing or evil or anything like that, but it's just a traveler and is actually here to teach us how to be better, basically. So, but there's also other things, entities that try to stop Injured Cold from doing that. So essentially, the weird connection is the story that you were describing, Marie, with the South African kids, right? From South Africa, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
If that's where Zimbabwe is, then yes.
Well, yeah.
African geography.
I think it was all like controlled by the United Kingdom at some point, but yeah, Zimbabwe was Rhodesia, I think. So either way, where they described like this, like Men in Black and alien figures and stuff like that. So the original idea of like the Men in Black can be like sourced to this story of Injured Cold, and that he's just this man in a suit that is ambiguous and like doesn't really have features. Like he
Yeah.
looks like a man, but he's like he looks like every other person, right? So the connection with the Mothman is that he kind of sparks the beginning of all of these weird sightings, and then there's like some allegations that somehow people were, I guess, getting premonitions of that there was going to be this horrible catastrophe in Point Pleasant or somewhere near Point Pleasant, but they didn't know what it would be. And some people even had premonitions, allegedly, that involved water and all of these things that ended up linking themselves to the collapse of the bridge in Point Pleasant. So we're not talking like one or two people, by the way. We're talking like hundreds of people for about a year in and around that area of West Virginia, alleged encounters with this humanoid type moth owl creature that would appear and then disappear. At the time, the only person that said that they had encountered Indrid Cold was Mr. Darrenberger. It's a hard name to say. So what's weird to me about this and why it's like my favorite thing is that, and I'll get to the Brown Mountain thing in a minute, but is that we're talking like 1960s, right? There's no social media. Like all these towns have their own newspapers. Again, where Woodrow Derenberger is almost an hour away from Point Pleasant. Like I would doubt that something like some guy claiming that he meets a interdimensional being ends up getting shared an hour away in a different town.
Right.
It's just really weird. The connection between like the Kentucky Goblin thing and the Brown Mountain thing is that there are a lot of people for decades that have alleged similar encounters with things that live underground, with like these goblin type creatures, with Mothman type creatures. And there's a lot of that in and around Brown Mountain and that part of North Carolina as well. There's all these theories about that there's actually some type of like base or portal underneath Brown Mountain. Have you ever heard about that?
Ooh.
That they think that like somehow like the government discovered this portal there and that the lights are actually like ships that are coming back and forth from a different galaxy.
I haven't heard about that, but I've heard a lot of stories and interviews from park rangers and game wardens that the lights do seem to be intelligent. And the way they move seems to be intelligent, and they definitely move too quickly up and throughout the mountain to be just like ATVs or hikers or whatnot. And there's been reports. There was this video I was watching on YouTube last night. This park ranger was driving through the Linville Gorge, and this light went over top of his car. It was almost as if it was like shot through the gorge. And that was a story I haven't heard yet. And so it's not like these lights are just seen way off in the distance. They can be seen really anywhere throughout that area. But to have it go over top of your car, it wasn't a plane, it wasn't anything that he's ever seen. It wasn't a shooting star. It was literally like went right over top of the tree lines over their car and zoomed away. Like that is
right.
Imagine seeing something like that.
Yeah. And that that makes me think of a great point that I wanted to bring up is that like a lot of these people, I'm not saying all, because where there are stories and people alleging things like this, there are going to be hoaxes and bullshit.
Sure.
100%. But a lot of these folks have absolutely no reason to tell lies about these things, to make these things up. Right. So, Woodrow Derenberger was a salesman. I think he sold like sewing machines. He did fine for himself. He was married, owned property. Like, he had absolutely no reason. And even more interesting is that he didn't really gain any notoriety from this at all. I mean, what he gained was like very, very brief. He didn't make money from it. He wrote a book, but it wasn't something that was like a bestseller, right? So he didn't get rich from this. He didn't become some celebrity. He just had this story to tell, and he actually said that wasn't the only encounter that he had with Indrid Cold, that Indrid Cold actually became a friend of his and would visit him and would actually take him to the Ganymede galaxy where he was from.
Fuck,
and
man.
show him his world, which was like, he described it as like an alternate Earth, basically. So basically the only explanation that experts ever had was that he hallucinated these things and was schizophrenic, but there was no other evidence that he was schizophrenic. So very, very strange. And I can't, the biggest piece of it to me is the timing of it. It's so strange that there's all of these similar incidents and encounters in such a like very tight area in the Appalachian Mountains that are all so similar, and that involved people that would never spoken with each other, that would not have ever met each other. And a lot of it occurred in about a 15-month period. It's just, I can't get over that. I think it's so strange. Like now I would call bullshit because of social media.
Yeah.
But I mean, there literally was no way to share information to that extent at that time. So it's just very, very bizarre. If those of you that are listening to this, if you want to dive more into this, like involving all three of our but not like Marie specifically, but that idea, that concept, check out some stuff from John Keel. Some of John Keel's books are almost entirely involving this stuff. And there's, I don't know if either one of you know the Newkirks. Do you know them? Okay. So they've had several paranormal shows, and they've been on like the Holzer Files, and one other. It's Greg and Dana are their names. They're married. But they had a show called Hellier, which is actually Kevin. Yeah. Okay. It all takes place here in Kentucky. Well, not all of it. Actually, some of it takes place at Brown Mountain, North Carolina. Yeah. So check Hellier out. They dive like way, way further into this stuff, and they talk about the connections with encounters all over Appalachia and beyond. Man. So
Indrid Cold, man, that name always makes my shoulders shrug, and it always makes me chapstick. Yeah, I was about to say chapstick. Yes. Oh man, that movie is
Richard
so
here.
It's good.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Indrid Cold is supposed to be able to, so he has telepathic powers, and he can also tell you information about the past and the future. Not specific things about the future, but like, I think that was part of like his goal in coming here, was to try to educate some people about like what we were fucking up, and like as human beings, and like share ways to, I guess, have better outcomes for ourselves. And that like gets into the whole crazy synchronicity thing too. And like I said, that can be an entire episode. But it is so strange that we each picked, that we could have picked anything. We could have been like the Amityville horror house, or
right.
And we all picked three things that are strikingly similar and even potentially related to each other. It's fucking weird. It's weird. Chapstick.
Oh man.
Yeah. So
spooky.
I really want to hear like some scary, real like encounters we've had. You got one, Marie?
See, that's the thing. I don't really know, because that's the
best part of it.
Right. The only thing that's ever really happened is me just like sleeping in a haunted hotel room, and then things happen in the room. Like that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's this hotel.
No big deal. I just was at a haunted hotel room, and
it's because I don't have definitive proof, and that bothers me.
Yeah.
There's just a hotel in my city. I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and there's a hotel in my city called the Fort Garry Hotel. and it's super old and beautiful. And there's a room 202 in that hotel, and I've stayed in it several times.
With the closet,
And
that closet.
with the
Oh
that
god.
closet,
I want to
man.
hear about this.
So the story about the room is that I don't remember, way back in the day, like white dress period piece day. Like a white dress to go, you know, like people like, I saw a ghost in a long white dress. It's
Oh,
basically like that
Victorian,
type
like
of
Victorian
kind of
era. Yeah.
sort of, yeah. So basically a woman's, her and her husband were staying in that room, and then she had a headache and he went to go get something for it, and then he died on the way or something getting it, and then she hung herself in the closet. That's apparently
geez,
like
that's
the rough
oof.
story.
Mhm.
So this room, when you walk in this room, I actually recently just stayed in this hotel room this past summer, and nothing happened, and I was very upset. And I stayed in it alone, and it was freaky. But when I walked in and saw this closet, I had flashbacks. I couldn't go near it. The closet is like a wardrobe, but like built into the wall. Like it sticks out from the wall. You can definitely go in there. Like I sat in there. Like you can fit in there. You could hang yourself in there, is what I'm trying to say. It's like its own entity in this room. Like you walk in the room,
yeah, I
there's
get
this like
it.
jutting out closet. And you're like, oof. Like it's just
Yeah.
unsettling, even if it wasn't haunted. But I've stayed in there when I was younger 3 times. And every single time we heard noises coming from the closet, which sounded like a shuffling, rustling, scratching type sound. And then one
My eyes are
time,
watering.
are they?
Yeah.
So did it sound like almost like someone trying to like stop themselves from being hung, like
Being
regretting?
strangled. We talked about that whenever Marie was there. Yeah. That has to be what that sound is.
It sounds like maybe it could be. Oh, okay, I'm getting kind of
Like toes hitting the ground.
feet dragging against the carpet, maybe legs like moving against the door.
Oof.
Yeah. So when
Man.
the second time I stayed there, we thought that's it. There's hangers in the closet. If anything happens, let's just move all the hangers to one side. So we did that, and then in the middle of the night heard that sound again, opened up the closet after it stopped, and the hangers were spaced out.
Whoa, that's
even still in my head, I'm like, nah, they're effing with us in this hotel. I don't know. So every time I heard that noise, except for this last time I was there, and one time my friend and I were falling asleep, sort of, and we were watching Conan O'Brien, and this is before they did renovations, so the TV was kind of like an older box TV. You needed like a remote to turn it on and off. It had like push buttons kind of on it. And we were watching Conan O'Brien. I remember because it's my first time watching Conan O'Brien, so it's so vivid in my head. And we're sitting up on the bed, kind of like trying not to fall asleep. We had our bags packed by the door because we were so scared. And then the TV just shut off by itself. And we're like, okay, cool. And we look at each other. We're like, where's the remote? And it's like over on the dresser across the way. Because we thought maybe we rolled on it. I don't know. And my friend was like, so you want to go? I'm like, yep. So he's like, get up to go. And we put our, like I'm telling you, as soon as I put my hand on the doorknob to leave, the TV like turned on again, but like super duper loud. Like it was like the volume was up for some reason. It was like turned on super loud. And we were like, oh, we were just like left. So the TV turned off and on by itself, which was kind of freaky. There was the first time we stayed there was a 2 call. We went out for dinner. The girls and I went out for dinner. When we came back, there were 2 messages on our hotel phone. And one of them was like, this sounds so dumb repeating it. One of them was like this like staticky like message with like maybe a woman whispering in the back. Like it was like that.
It was Indrid Cold.
It was Indrid Cold. It's like, girls got your chapstick, just making sure. So there was that message, and we're like, whatever. And then there was another message from like one of the girls' boyfriends being like, have fun, whatever. So we went down to the front desk, and we're like, oh, we just want to know like what time these messages came in. And they're like, oh, we only transferred 1 call to your room this evening. And we're like, oh, we had 2 messages. Like what? So that was kind of freaky. But at the same time, I'm
That
like,
is freaky.
if I'm not seeing a ghost in front of me or something move in front of me, I'm like not having it. There's tons of other stories from on the internet about this hotel room, like blood dripping down the wall, someone getting into the bed beside them, seeing the woman actually. It's notoriously it's probably the most haunted place in my city, not just that room, but like the whole hotel apparently. But
Yeah.
How old is the hotel? Do you know?
I will figure out right now.
Like really old, like 1800s old, or like early 1900s old?
I think it's early 1900s.
So still old. I mean, it's funny. Kevin and I have talked about this. When someone says 10 years ago, I think of it being 1990.
Me too.
So
we're all roughly the same age, so right? I think so. I don't know
Yeah.
how old Brooke is actually. But...
62. I look great, don't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
1913. 1913
so
it was filmed.
old. Yeah, that's pretty. That's pretty old. That's cool. There's something about like the idea of haunted hotels that I think is so cool, and it kind of makes you think like, did that start because it like just caught on and became like folklore, or is it just because hotels are these like they're these like transitional like portals for people, like no one actually ever lives there, right? You just kind of exist there for the time that you're visiting somewhere different that's not your home. And I feel like a lot of times there's a lot of like different energies, like sadness or happiness, that are like so extreme in places like that, that if you believe in like stone tape theory and things like that stuff,
energy imprints and
yeah,
everything.
yeah, it just like it doesn't go away. So like that's why hotels are so haunted, is because they're just this like this battery that's just energized by all of these emotions from people using them as this like transitional place to go from point A to point B. I think that's I like that theory. I think it's cool. But it could definitely also just be that it became so easy to tell these stories about hotels because it sounds good,
Also, it makes the hotel money.
It does. It does.
Come stay in this haunted hotel. I want to go stay in the haunted
unless
hotel.
it's abandoned, which makes you think like, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. Yeah, I mean, you don't really hear too often about like Red Roof Inns being haunted.
They are scary though.
They are very scary. Yeah. That meth is very haunting,
Good old Red Roofs.
Yeah, I want to know. I think I have an idea of what Kevin's experience is.
I got a couple actually.
Yeah. Okay.
I've got one that happened to me that I can't explain, and then I've got two that happened to members of my family. So the first one is this was back when I was growing up in my old house, 2-story house, and at the time we would have either my grandma or my pawpaw stay with us, and they were both at the end of their lives, and we were kind of taking care of them, and they both stayed in the same room, not at the same time. My grandmother stayed at the bottom bedroom next to the stairs while she stayed with us for a couple years, and she passed away peacefully in there. And then my pawpaw moved in with us years after that, and he passed away in that room as well. So they both passed away basically in the same area.
That's
in
crazy.
That room. And I remember I was upstairs one night. It was just me and my sister home alone. I was upstairs in the middle room. I was probably between 12 and 15 years old. And I remember my sister coming, because you have to go past that bedroom to go up the stairs. Like it's right there. I remember her screaming and running up the stairs, and she just goes, I just saw this big ball of light in the bedroom. And she was like crying, and it just gave me goosebumps. And I never saw anything in that room. I never really felt anything, but you always kind of had that sense of like you were going to see something before you went up the stairs. So
it's like that wall of energy kind of feeling. Like there's this, yeah.
So just touching on like hotels and places that leave an imprint of grief and sadness and tragedy. I feel like that room definitely like captured that. Sure. So that's one of them. Another one is So my mom told me this story a while ago, and I've always remembered it. So when she was growing up, her cousin had a ghost in their house, and they saw it all the time. It was an older woman, and her aunt went over one day, and she was using the restroom, and she went to go wash her hands, and she saw the ghost in the mirror looking at her. It was just an older woman. So basically, they just coexisted in this house. It never bothered them, but they would just see her walking around from time to time, this older lady, and I got goosebumps. Like, I wish you could see my arm.
That's nuts.
So those are the two that really stand out. Man, I wish I could. I don't know if she's still living, my mom's cousin, because this happened when my mom was little. But I would love to just hear more stories about that. But my personal story is a little ridiculous. It's more on like the funny side, but I can't explain it. And I guess I'll preface this by saying I fucking love Bigfoot stories. I'm a big Bigfoot, like Loch Ness Monster.
What did I call it the other day? What did I call it? I called it like a Winnebago or
Oh yeah, you're kind of
instead of a Wendigo.
Wendigo, yeah.
Winnebago.
I was like, God damn, brother, that's a goddamn Winnebago.
Walking through the woods. Yeah.
Shit.
Oh god,
that accent's perfect because
that was really good.
Back when this happened, this was almost like a past life for me because this was back in like 2007, 2009. Back when I was like a real country boy, I used to go hunting with an old group of friends, and that was like my life for a couple of years. I was just a redneck.
Tell the story with a heavier accent, please.
Just living in.
Just please.
Kevin's wardrobe was exclusively mossy oak.
It was all
nothing but mossy
all
oak.
Mossy oak. Like I had a camouflage jacket, had my 270 rifle. We were going turkey hunting. Not with the 270. I was going to hunt with my Remington.
So you're gonna blow that turkey into pieces, man.
With ballistic tips. But so we went to the mountains.
Marie's like, these fucking Americans.
I love Americans. Keep going. I was just gonna say America. Yeah. No, I love it. Keep going.
So we were going turkey hunting. This was in the middle of April. And we went to my friend. It was my friend's like friend's property. And it was like this old trailer, this old abandoned, no power, no nothing trailer.
Not a Winnebago? Was it a Winnebago?
It was
one of them Winnebago trailers. And we got there and we like set up camp, and like this trailer is just so run down and terrifying and in the middle of nowhere up on top of this mountain. And so I remember we go this is so redneck. We go out to set up a turkey blind. And for those of you that are like, what the fuck's a turkey blind? A turkey blind is where you go and you basically set up like a little hunting area, a camp to camouflage yourself so you can lure in the turkey. And we were out.
It's actually really fun. It's actually really fun. Yeah.
This is a festive Thanksgiving story too. It's actually
yeah.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
Getting dinner tonight.
Oh my God, dadgummit. So
come on, brother.
We were out trimming limbs and gathering foliage to make this turkey blind. And a storm kind of was kind of like brewing. It was starting to roll in. And so we're like, well, we kind of better hurry because it's getting a little dicey. It's getting a little dark. But we didn't hear any.
Spring turkey or fall turkey?
This is spring turkey.
Spring turkey. Okay. Very important. Spring turkey.
Spring turkey.
All
right. But we could see it was getting dark, like a heavy rainstorm. We didn't hear any thunder, but we're like, we better hurry up. And this was like mid-afternoon. And so we're kind of finishing up when all of a sudden we hear this unexplainable sound coming from on top of the mountain right in front of us. And it was just like, it sounded like a mix of a roar and thunder and something kind of mechanical at the same time. We kind of just stopped and like looked up at each other. We were like, did you hear that? And we were just kind of like, whatever. So we got back to doing it. And within seconds, it was literally on top of us, like right on top of the mountain, way louder. And so I don't know. We don't know what it was. It was that it moved that quickly and it was that loud. It scared us that bad. It was nothing like I've ever heard before. ever. And so we fucking threw our stuff down. We left everything. We got on the ATVs and we flew back to the trailer and just like peeked through like the blinds, waiting to see something like Bigfoot, a bear, something coming after us. And that is like the only thing that's ever happened to me that I can't explain. Never heard anything like it. And to this day, like it, I think about it from time to time. It was a weird one. It was scary. Like
Yeah.
it was weird. It was very weird.
That is really weird. Like
Have you
nature
ever-
stuff is so scary to begin with.
Well, the woods are
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
woods, who knows what's living in the woods? It's
Right.
like kind of like the ocean. Like who knows what
No.
really
Yeah,
is
fuck the ocean. I am
what's-
not.
No.
what's,
Fuck
lur-
the
what's
ocean.
lurking.
Yeah. Stupid ocean.
Oh, it's just when you describe it as having a mechanical sound in it, that really bothers me. Like that's so unsettling.
Yeah, well, like I just remember I was like, is that some type of like bulldozer or something like a tree trimmer? It was something mechanical,
Like a
but
heavy
also
machine. Yeah.
heavy machinery, but also animalistic at the same time.
Weird.
And but the way that it got on top of us and
Mhm.
was like roaring and sounded more animalistic but off was like
Ugh.
it scared the shit out of us. And like we're like some country boys. Like I was with my buddy Josh and his nickname was Big Juicy, and he's this
Big
big old,
Juicy.
he's this
I know
big
about
old
Big
country
Juicy.
boy,
Yeah.
this big old country boy, and we don't get scared often, and that truly terrified us.
You know, have you seen, it reminds me of like the videos of like the really strange sounds that like people have like documented all over the world, like the roaring kind of weird, like some people have said they're like like trumpets, and some people have said, you know, like biblical trumpets, and some people have thought they're like some type of weird impedance from like spacecraft or something. And yeah, so that's crazy, man. I don't know what I would have done. Like I would have been scared, but I would have wanted to know like
What it was.
yeah
Mhm.
yeah, that's something like with all paranormal stuff. It's like a really weird, I'm trying to think of a way to say it. It's very strange how like in our psyche we want there to be all of these things, right? So
Oh yeah.
you know, what does that say about us? Like, are we I'm trying to think of a way to explain what I'm trying to put out there, but I guess it's just that human beings are already so fucking weird. The fact that we exist, like the fact that we're talking to, like we're looking through little boxes, talking to each other, you know, thousands of miles apart right now is really weird. So I don't know. I love that stuff. And I think it's important to try to understand it, to try to debunk it, or to try to prove it. And I don't think it's taken very seriously in like the legitimate realm of science right now. I don't think it's becoming more accepted, but it's still not accepted like some sciences are. And I think that's bullshit, because science is, if there's anything that you know about science, it's that there's been a ton of shit that's been disproved or changed, or theories that have been debunked or adjusted or whatever. So the fact that like people don't take it seriously is kind of silly to me, because, you know, we used to think that the earth is flat. By the way, the earth is flat. Duh. You know, people thought that everything revolved around the earth. It doesn't. That was probably pretty crazy to people when they figured out that it didn't, that we revolve around the sun, right? So I guess what I'm getting at is I just wish more people had a more open mind about paranormal stuff.
It's hard in this day and age too, because now you could you can catch actual evidence, share it for the world to see, and right away you're like, well, that's fake.
Like,
because
yeah,
anyone
that's
can just
it's
make
fucking
it.
fake. Yeah, it's fake.
Anyone can like Photoshop anything. You can make it yourself. So there could be actual proof of ghosts and everything out there right now, but it's like, not fake. Come on. Like,
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. It's like, you wanted proof, like you claim that that it's impossible, and then people document proof or evidence, and they're like, no, that's fake. You're
No.
stupid.
Yeah.
So which is it? Like, do you want
That's why you
evidence or
gotta
not?
see for yourself. That's why.
Yeah.
Like I gotta see it for my own
I agree.
self.
I think that is important, though. I think experiencing things for yourself really changes your perspective. It changes your lens for things like that. And I think it might even have like an effect to where things notice that you have experienced them, and maybe it like opens up, your third eye, I guess. I don't know. I think that stuff's pretty crazy. But you think that your story is silly. I think you know what story I'm about to tell. Do
Maybe.
you know what's
I don't know.
it's gonna sound pretty silly. I don't think I've told this story on the podcast. The Skittles.
Oh,
Ooh.
the Skittles. Yeah.
The
Okay.
Skittles. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That we haven't talked about that, right?
Not on the podcast.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it sounds pretty silly, right? Skittles. It's not. It was scary. But okay. So essentially, without naming any names, there's some drama involved, right? I was 20. Yeah, I was 20 years old. Kids are scandalous when they're in their 20s. So I dated this girl. A couple weeks later, find out she has a boyfriend, right? So I went on, let me rephrase that. I went on dates with this girl, find out she has a boyfriend from one of her friends that not so conveniently wanted to date me. So she exposed her, right? So whatever. So then I start dating other girl. Well, they're all friends. So that makes it even more drama, right? Well, one day I go out. I think we went out to eat or something. And the girl I was dating was like, "Hey, we're going over to whose boyfriend's house." I was like, "No, we're not. Like, that's weird." And she's like, "No, don't worry. He doesn't have a clue." So we go there. And this guy lived with two other guys. And it was like this rental house. It was actually in southern Indiana. So where I live in Louisville. So Louisville, people commute back and forth. Like, there's a lot of Hoosiers that come into Kentucky to work, and vice versa. So we go across the bridge and go to this house, and it's just like a little dump house. And they had a band too, so there's just like instruments and band stuff everywhere. So we're hanging out, and at some point someone's like, "Hey, we should mess with the Ouija board," which at the time, like, I'd had a few experiences, but nothing that was like so impactful to me that it just absolutely changed my mind about it, about spirits and that world.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why at this point in my life I was kind of skeptical about everything that was, I guess, like spiritual, and I just was. And so essentially, I'm like, whatever, yeah, cool. I thought it was bullshit, right? So a few other people do it first, and then everyone's like, "Burke, you should do it. You should do it." So I'm like, okay. So it's me,
Do it,
the boyfriend, and his roommate, which is already weird. And I'm like, for sure, it's like spelling random crap that doesn't mean anything, right? And I am for sure that these two idiots are doing it. Like 100% they're moving this thing. And like, I had almost taken all of the weight. Like, I was barely touching this thing and it was moving. So I'm basically like calling bullshit. And somebody, I can't remember who it was, but somebody was like, "Well, ask it something that there's no way that the other two guys will know." So I'm like, "Okay, what's my grandma's name?" And the first weird part about it is that at the time I only had one living grandmother, and it decides to spell the beginning of that grandmother's name, which is Bernice, which is really weird because who would have, so it spells BERN. And we called, she passed away, but we called her Burn. That was like her nickname. So I'm like, nope, I'm done with this. Like, at that point, I'm like, either they're playing a really, involved trick on me, or something's up. So it gets weirder. So I was done. I was finished with it. I wanted no part of it at that point. And I think they messed with it for like another like 15, 20 minutes. And then we all sat down to watch a movie. Well, before we had gotten there, we stopped at a CVS to get candy. And I bought a bag of Skittles. And I mean like one of the big, huge bags of Skittles. So not one of the ones that like has the individual smaller bags, but one that is just like all Skittles.
Mm-hmm.
So we sit down to watch a movie. They cut the lights off. There was just like a lamp on in this living room, and we watched it on like a little tube TV. It was actually white. I remember it like exactly what it looked like. It was like a white tube TV that had a VCR that was built into it, and we watched Scream, which is always funny. So we're watching Scream, and I had cut the edge of the bag of Skittles off, right, so that I could just pour it in my hand without them spilling everywhere. I had set it up on this dresser that was like on the far wall to my right. Like no one was near it. And we're watching this movie, and then all of a sudden it sounded like someone had just taken 1,000 marbles and just threw them on every wall, the floor, the ceiling, all over this room. And everyone's like, what the fuck? So we turn the lights on, and it was the Skittles. This bag had been like thrown, right? And Skittles went everywhere in this room. No one was anywhere near this. So something flung this bag of Skittles everywhere in this room. Well, later on, the girls talked about how there was this, they had messed with the Ouija board like months prior and talked to this spirit, and that it was like their friend. And so in my head, the theory is that like this thing just didn't like that we were there with them, like it had claimed them. And so yeah, my like mind altering paranormal experience that just changed my lens was because of a bag of Skittles.
Well, or a demon.
Yeah, I mean what color bag of Skittles were they? Were they the red or the purple or
no, it was like the standard, like the basic basic gas. So the bag was red and it had like the Skittles writing on it, but it wasn't like any special flavors or anything. It actually might have been like before that really existed. Because this was like 2000.
I was gonna say I would understand why it tossed the purple bag, because those are
yeah, those are trash.
Those always taste like medicine to me.
Yeah, those are gross. No, this would have been 2006, I think. Okay. Pretty sure it was, yeah. So just fucking weird. And you know, this was before like all these sites where you can like get people's information and stuff too. So there's no way, you know. I will not touch a Ouija board. I don't like being in houses that have them. I have a friend that has a collection of Ouija boards, and she knows that I hate them. Yeah, and I won't like. I won't touch them. I don't like being around them. I think that there's a reason why like talking boards and spirit boards have been used by cultures for literally tens of thousands of years. So that shit's scary. Yeah.
I'd use one right now. We used to make them in junior high. We would just like get a piece of cardboard and make them and play on like our lunch break.
Yeah, plus I'm never coming to visit in Canada. So,
that's what we do in Canada.
I'll be staying at that haunted hotel instead of your Ouija board infected house.
We brought a Ouija board to that room already, so it's been in there.
Only time I've ever used one, I was a kid, and we were at my grandpa's house, and my cousin was over, and he had one. He was like the older cousin that always got into like trouble and always tried to like get us into trouble. So he had like a
leather jacket, and he like slicked his hair back.
Yeah, and he fucking listened to Godsmack and everything, and so and corn. So he got it out, and the only thing I remember is we were talking to this little ghost kid. We're like, "How did you die?" And it's spelled KOW. We were like, "Cow? You were killed by a cow?" And like that's all I remember. That was it. That's the only time I've ever missed the Ouija board. Cow.
Hey. You know, he might still be following you. You don't know.
Maybe.
Could be.
Maybe.
Could be. You never know. Well, I still think it's really weird that we each, I've been just ruminating over the fact that we each chose like weird alien, interdimensional type phenomena. That's just so weird to me. Because the entire time leading up to this, I'm thinking like, which like haunting story is Marie
Me
gonna
too.
choose, or which, you know, and you like
my other story I had was an alien one too. I had 2 stories to choose from, and the other one was a UFO one too. Just like,
so you
that to me is
messaged
more
me.
tangible.
You messaged me at like, it was like midnight. At midnight, you said,
okay.
"Are aliens considered paranormal?"
Because is that like just sci-fi, or is
1000%.
that
No?
okay? Good,
no, it's
because
all the way
I asked Kevin
paranormal.
too. I'm like, would you consider it? And he was like, oh hell yeah. I'm like, okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
You know, we still, you know, we've talked a lot, but I feel like maybe we have time for one more really weird story that I have. It didn't happen to me, but Kevin inspired me with like the stories that other people shared with him, and it has to do with Kevin's phenomenon that he chose.
Like Kevin's what, man? Kevin's
How
what?
far how far away
Kevin's
are
life.
those mountains from you? Like, how far away is those mountains?
About an hour. And what's crazy is I knew they were the lights of Brown Mountain, but I wasn't exactly sure where Brown Mountain was. I just thought it was kind of maybe towards Boone, like along the Appalachian, like along the Blue Ridge Parkway. But it's, like I said, it's between where I'm at and the actual mountains. It's in like this, like the foothills. It's the Linville Gorge. So if you look up the Linville Gorge, it's gorgeous. I used to hike
gorgeous.
there. It's gorgeous. I used to hike there all the time. I didn't know that that's actually where it takes place. But like what Burke was saying, it's very rural. It's so old. It's such old land that it makes sense.
So how far away is it from Greenville, South Carolina? How far away would it be from there?
Like probably 8.5 hours.
Oh,
no, I would say probably around 2 hours.
Oh, really? Oh, wait.
Yeah,
Greenville's. Oh, my bad. For some reason, I'm thinking.
Really?
I was thinking in Greensboro, North Carolina, which is like way far east, right?
But that would be closer because Greensboro is about an hour and 20 from me.
Okay.
So, and that's north. But I would say here, I'll look it up right now, actually, Marie.
Okay.
For some reason, I always forget that where you're going, Marie, is like pretty much on the state line, more or less.
Okay. Because
so you're actually like closer to stuff in North Carolina than you are like most other cities in South Carolina.
Okay.
Or you will be. Yeah, because I'll be in Georgia. I'll be in Georgia this time next week, which is way far away from where you're going to be. But you'd think that it's not, but it is.
Yeah, I was going to say, like my Canadian mind thinks that all those places are like really close together.
It's about no, you can't see that, but it's about a 2 hour and 20-minute drive.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Are you going to go to Brown Mountain?
I don't know. I'm going to bring up my brother because he's
the last time that we ever. This is the final episode of any podcast that Marie will ever be on.
Gonna disappear into the light.
Okay, so your eyes are getting real teary on this one, Marie.
Yes.
Okay, so
and Kevin
knows about this one.
Get teary with
Kevin
me.
knows about this. Was like a 30 minute long, like 1 minute individual 30 times Instagram voice message scenario. Probably about a year ago, I guess I shared this with you.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Okay, so I have a friend that lives nearby Brown Mountain, just west of it. So he bought property, which Brown Mountain, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like a little bit east in rural North Carolina, east of Asheville.
Yes.
Like northeast of Asheville. So essentially he has property between Asheville and Brown Mountain, in foothills, more or less. So absolutely beautiful property. He buys this pastured property in the middle of the hills because he wants to homestead. His closest neighbor is a little over a mile away on the same road. They share the same drive. So essentially, without like going into a ton of detail, his neighbor, so his name's Dan. So Dan is not the neighbor, my friend. Dan keeps having incidents to where livestock ends up on his property that is not his. So he finds out that it's the neighbors. So the first time he brings it back himself. He trailers it, drives it back. Like they have a horse trailer, drives the cow back to his neighbors, make sure it's his. And that's all there is to it. So the next time it happens, I think his wife called him or something, and more or less like he goes on his way home, he goes to the neighbor and he's like, "Hey, you've got livestock on my property again." And the guy like proceeds to tell him that they like sit down and have a beer, and he's like, "Dude, I'm gonna tell you about some weird shit. Like, just so you know, like I know that you're kind of new here, but I'm gonna tell you about some weird shit." So the guy's a Vietnam veteran. Said he's a really nice guy. He apologizes, tells him, "Sorry, my livestock keep getting on your property. Like, if they damage anything, just let me know, whatever." So he proceeds to tell him that he's convinced that the government or like agents of the government are like fucking with him, basically. Or like some third party weird entities that like are somehow involved with the government, like shadow people, not shadow people like spirits, but these like, men in black type figures. So that they are harassing him so that he doesn't talk about some of the stuff that he witnessed years prior. So it's kind of just like an intimidation, like just like a threat of force or a show of force as kind of a threat. So, so Dan's like, "Okay, like, sure, dude. Well, what happened years ago?" And this guy tells him that essentially like at that time in the 1980s, this part of, where they lived, it's like a little valley. And there's like a gas station, that was like also a restaurant, and like really nothing else, like a couple stores. That it was more rural than it is even today. So everyone knew everyone else. You never saw strangers because there was no reason for anyone to travel through there. So again, this guy's a Vietnam veteran. Well, he goes to the gas station that he goes to like every day, right? And there's a car that he doesn't recognize that looks like a government vehicle that's parked at one of the pumps. So he goes inside, and sure enough, there's a guy standing at the counter, and the guy turns around and he recognizes the guy as being somebody that he served with in Vietnam, right? So for people that are listening that don't know this, like veterans are very close knit with each other, especially if they've served in combat for their entire lives. Like if you see somebody that you served in combat with, you're not going to avoid them. It is truly like, the band of brothers mentality, right? So this guy acts like he has never seen this man before, right? Intentionally avoids him, leaves without saying a word. And he's like, this guy's blown away by this encounter. He can't believe that, this guy would do that, and just doesn't understand what happened, right? Well, then after that happens, he starts to notice what he thinks are like government actors, like consistently in places in and around to where he was. Like, so like people that looked like they were military. He noticed like people that he didn't recognize in like the bigger town nearby, that looked obviously like they had been or were currently serving in the military or working for the government. Haircuts, the way they dress, the way they carry themselves, their candor, and like vehicles that did not look like civilian vehicles, the way they were like, just the way they were kept. That usually people leave things in vehicles, right? Like you make it personal. You personalize your vehicle by leaving items in it or stickers or whatever, right? So just very plain Jane everything. And he starts noticing this for like years. And that's what that's the event or the events that like triggered his belief into that they recognized that he knew something was up and that they were like intimidating him by coming to his property and being like, listen, like we can do whatever we want to you and no one's going to believe you, basically. So, and the connection with Brown Mountain is that, like his theory is that the government found like something, he doesn't know what, but something that ain't natural about like that part of that region of North Carolina, and that they were either researching it or using it or whatever, discovered something. And he told me that story as I was watching the series Hellier, which dives, like I said before, dives into that stuff. And I was like, this is really weird, because he didn't know that I was watching that show and knew what Brown Mountain was, right? So I tell him this, and he's like, you're bullshitting me. I was like, no. So he starts to watch Hellier, and he couldn't finish it because he lives there. So yeah, he didn't want anything to do with it. But I told Kevin that, like I said, about a year ago, and that just sticks with me. It's such a weird, like just scary.
I thought you. Go ahead, Marie.
Some of these things are just so funny when like the government gets involved, and it's like, if you guys weren't here, we wouldn't think anything weird was happening. But now the government's getting involved. It's like, well, duh. Now it's like we know there's like something up, and now we want to know more. It's
right,
like just...
right. They're so. I mean, the government's so massively inept too. It's like, no wonder they can't figure out how to like if they have discovered that or made contact, that they can't figure out a feasible way to tell us, because they can't even figure out how to like do a census.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. What are you saying, Kevin?
Oh, I was going to, well, maybe I won't bring it up. I thought Burke was going to talk about, and I won't say what it was, but I thought he was going to bring up something that, and I'll just say birthday parties. I'm getting at, Burke. Think about what you see. I thought that's what you were going to bring up. What you kept seeing. I thought that's what you were going to bring up.
No. Well,
maybe that.
Yeah, that's for another time.
That's a story for another time. Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah, that is that. Oh, man, you know what? I should have. I wish I would have thought about that one, but yeah, we'll save that one. We'll save that one.
We need another paranormal story episode.
You need a volume 2.
Yeah,
we'll have to. Marie will do the voiceover. Volume 2.
Volume 2. Get your chapstick.
There you go.
The government is watching.
That's the. We should do like We should do like the X-Files, where it's like a different thing, where it's like,
oh yeah.
Why can't I think of the main line?
I'm ready to believe.
I want to believe.
I want to believe. Yeah.
But also I'm ready.
Yeah,
I'm ready to believe.
I'm ready to. This can't be not brought up, but you've got a giant blaster on your wall there, Marie.
Oh, that gun back there?
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually from a video game I play called Overwatch.
Said, "Oh, that little thing back there."
Oh, that gun? It's made of foam. It's not like yeah, it's from a video game I played. The headset next to it, the girl wears that headset, and then she has that little gun.
Oh, you did the didn't you do like Halloween?
Yeah.
Where you played the game? Yeah. So those of you that don't know, Marie also streams on Twitch, right?
Yeah, I haven't for a while. That one time on Halloween, but yes. I love video games. Sometimes I stream them on Twitch. Sometimes I dress up.
It was very ASMR. I got on there for a minute and watched, and it was like the sound effects from the game and you all talking like was making me nod off. I think I told you that I had no
Really?
idea
I'm
it
like,
was
that's
happening.
stressful.
Yeah,
That's stressful
no, I was like,
ASMR though.
no, you could record it. You could like screen record it and put it on YouTube and tag it ASMR.
It's nostalgic.
What game were you playing?
When I did the stream?
Yeah.
Overwatch.
Okay.
2. Overwatch 2.
Huh.
Right?
I
Yeah.
did. Mm-hmm. So I played a little bit of Call of Duty, and then I got so annoyed by it because I was getting destroyed by 8-year-olds all the time. So
I suck at Call of Duty. I never play Call of Duty. I'm so bad.
And Kevin just don't play in general.
Gator don't play no games. You feel me?
Gator don't play no shit. You feel me?
You feel me?
You feel me?
Gosh, yeah. Hey, we needed a moment of non-paranormal discussion, I feel like, to break it up, because I am going to be like on edge all day now thinking about Indrid Cold like visiting me tonight. Mm-hmm. Although at the same time I'd be okay with it.
Take me to Ganymede.
definitive proof of Indrid Cold,
Why didn't that dude just take a picture of him? Was it in the 60s or something?
Maybe he didn't want to be photographed.
I'd have been like little secret. Like, I'm showing the world.
I hate photos of myself, so if I just traveled from fucking Ganymede, I don't think anyone's taking any selfies with me. Okay, yeah. I had a lot of fun talking about this stuff. I really think that this should be like a consistent piece of our podcast, and I do want to talk about more horror stuff, and Kevin and I have talked about that we have to do an H2 episode. We just have to.
With Marie. No,
with Marie. I mean, really, if anyone's going to be on, I'd say Marie, and although he's done his own, Mike would be another great guest to have on for that, but I could talk about H2 all day, so I know that you both could as well.
Yeah. And, 2 people that love it, and then 2 people that don't love it.
Like, it's not that, but I'm not like, I hate this movie. I'd love to talk about H1 too, because I love H1 actually.
Yeah.
Like, if you love it so much, why don't you marry it? All right, I'm just kidding.
I would, just like how Kevin would marry H2.
I would too. Kevin and I would have to.
Oh my God, I'd marry.
We'd have to be in a polygamous relationship with. Oh my gosh. Well, like I said, I'm going to be freaked out all day. And I'm not going to cry though, like you 2 sissies.
Oh my gosh. I was tearing up this whole time pretty much. I want to go see some lights in Brown Mountain.
I want to go. Yeah, I do want to go.
Seriously.
There's an overlook called Wiseman's Overlook, and that's where I just want to go park for like the weekend and just see.
For a weekend. Kevin's going to be there for the next 3 centuries.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to show back up and look the exact same. And he
is Indrid Cold. He'll come back as Indrid Cold.
Oh yeah, he'd show up like with a nice little suit on, nice little slim black suit. Mm-hmm. Tell you what, you better not be building any turkey hides in that suit though. You don't want to,
spraying turkeys.
Well, Marie, thank you so much for being on. This has been a long time coming, and I hope that you will join us again for some more creepy discussions.
Definitely. I'll be on anytime you guys want, like talking about movies. I have more scary stories we could talk about if you ever wanted to. And thank you for having me on so much, you guys.
Yeah, and
I'm
before you go, I'd like for you to just plug yourself again. Where can people find you? And thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you guys. I'm so happy that I met you guys over social media. Can be such garbage sometimes, but it there's like these perks to it that just make it worthwhile. What's your at? Well, I have like several. So at Marie Reviews Everything, at Not a Strong Start, and at Marie Plays It All. Let's do it. All 3.
Yes.
I do play. See, unlike Kevin, I play and I play hard. I play thrice. Let's go.
Thrice playing. And you what's your new Instagram gonna be? Because I need to follow it.
my new Instagram is currently an old Instagram page
Hmm.
that I'm now making new. It's Marie plays it all. I just took an existing page and I changed the name just to have it. And there's like some video game stuff on it and stuff. It's like a video game page. And my show that's coming out is going to be heavily video game based, but also movie stuff in it too. So
I dig it.
Yeah.
Ready for it. Well, thanks again. Had fun.
Yeah.
And can't wait for the next one.
me neither. Thank you.
There you go.
All right. Thanks for listening. All right.